Welcome back to the blog. I don't know what episode we're on now. 8, I think. If this is your first time, I hope you find it interesting and you learn something. I thought I'd give you a quick update on where I'm at. Deadline is still to get it done for Christmas, so that's 5 days away now. Well, four really. So yes, where we're at. Okay, so an update on the rocker situation. I went down to Mini Spares yesterday and collected some spacers. I ended up buying the alloy spacer kit for the 5 ports and the steel spacer kit, and the idea was to use a combination of the two to space my rockers as best as I could so there was central over the valve stems. It sort of worked. As you can see by the numbering that's on these, it now goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 6, 7 and 4. You can tell that I've had to move them about to try and get it as good as I possibly can and make efficient use of the shims in the kit. These are the standard spacers out of the alloy kit, and that's one that I had to shorten quite a bit. These are just still the standard sizes with some of the steel shims in place in various places. What I did find was at that end I could still get the big washer on and then the cotter pin to hold it in place, but at this side, if you can see that, the only room there was to get the very small shim. It's a 40 thou shim, and then the cotter pin in. There's no room to get the washer in there, one of the big fat washers, so that's something to be aware of. Again, it's because of this head being such a weird casting, it's going to be different for anybody out there that's doing it with one of the modern castings of the 8-port. The spacer kit will be, the 8-port alloy spacer kit will be designed to be perfect, whereas mine's just a, what do you want to call it, a mix and match at best. It works pretty well. I'm happy with that. There's maybe one valve that's not quite central. I think it's that one. It's not quite over the stem 100%, but the rest of them are pretty damn good. What else have I done? I also got some of the proper thick washers. Here, got some of them to replace the little thin ones which were a temporary fit, so that's clamped up as tight as it's going to go. I'm still not sure how well that's going to seal in here. You can see that it doesn't look that brilliant, but I'll find out when I fire it up. Also, Andreas in Sweden was asking about the throttle bodies and whether they are a one-piece design or do you still need an inlet manifold, etc. Well, as you can see from this one, see from that view there, it's all one casting, which is why it fits under a standard bonnet line. And talking about bonnet lines, it's going to be really tight on this one. I've had a bonnet on and the frame on the inside of the bonnet was catching on here, so it's going to have to get chopped out. Other points to note is I finally got the missing piece off the throttle linkage, which came from Genvi, who make all the bits and pieces for Mini Spares. And also a point to note for anybody doing the injection conversion is that don't put this on the base plate until you got your throttle linkage all sorted, because I found now that there's absolutely no way in God's earth I can get the connection down there for putting the throttle cable in. There's a little hole that's in the linkage mechanism, and well, I can't even see it, and I can't get under it. I can't get under there for it, and I can't get under there, so I'm going to have to take this off to get at it and then put it all back on. And that was one of the things that, I don't know if I mentioned this, but put some sealant around here, clear sealant, because I found on the other 8-port that you do get a bit of dirt coming in around the edges. Mine's been custom made, whereas the Mini Spares, go on, not Mini Sport. The Mini Spares ones are pre-cut, and I found on the green 8-port that you did get a bit of dust and crap coming around this edge. So if you put some sealant on before you push it on, It stops any dirt and contaminants from getting inside past the air filter. So that's where we're at. I'm going to tighten the head up next, now that I've got all these on. Torque it all down, and then I can't set the tappets yet until I've got it on the ground, because of the way the diff works. You can't just turn one wheel and expect it to turn the engine. It doesn't. It needs to be on the ground, or one wheel stopped from rotating or something like that to make it work. But that's not a big deal. So I can now, once I get this torque down, I can see about putting some fluids in and put the water in for definite. Make sure it doesn't leak out any of these holes in the head. That'll probably need tightening up in the side there, because that goes straight through into the water jacket, as do most of these holes on the 8-port, on this head anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Still on schedule to have it done by Christmas Day. Hopefully have a first turnover, and well, fingers crossed for a start on Christmas Day. Still a bit to go, but not a million miles off. I need to get my man to make me some plug leads as well, because otherwise that's not going to happen. Okay then, update on the exhaust. What I've done so far is I cut off the old Y piece, which is that bit, which left this piece still inside there. So then what I had to do was cut it where I'd welded it to get rid of all the welds that were holding this piece inside that piece, and then eventually pried it out and shortened it and tidied it up. And the idea is that this piece will slot back inside there as an internal sleeve, over which the new Y piece will just slide, because as it turns out the new Y piece and the existing section of exhaust are exactly the same size, and I can't use an external sleeve because there's no room because of the alloy remote that runs right up tight to it. So it'll have to be an internal sleeve, weld that in place, slide it on, weld that, and then weld all the way around to hold it nice and straight and gas tight.